What is up, Earthnoids and Spacenoids? I am just a simple new type, and in this episode, we are beginning Volume 2 of Gaia Gear. Last volume, we met Afranche, who left his island for Hong Kong, a man who Sigs that Xian gave him the mobile suit, Zoran's soul. He took off for space and made it to Side 2. They then ran into a sketchy person named Ol Urian. This time, Afranche and the gang will run into the police. He splits up from Miranda and Krishna. Afranche will be thrown in jail, and Krishna goes on a date with Ol. So let's get into this. Afranche was planning on storing the Zoran's soul on the industrial block of the colony, but Ol Urian made him feel uneasy. He gets a weird sensation in his head once again. It is the ticking. He wants to know what these memories are. This isn't a headache. Someone is speaking to him. Afranche and Miranda get into an L-car with Krishna. They head to the Grenese district. Here, they happen to run into Ol eating a hot dog. He tries to join them. The Grenese district is full of natural environments. Sprinkled throughout is the residential sections, a fusion of artificial nature and humanity. This is the technology that gives Afranche hope. Afranche is annoyed by Ol constantly saying what is on his mind. He asks Krishna out on a date. He gets out of the car and says he will meet up with them later. As they travel, they find some drifter children. Better roll up those windows. Krishna mentions that most of these children were most likely forced to migrate into the colonies. Of course, forcing them off planet doesn't change culture, and most of these people need help that is outside the scope of care for most individuals. But hey, at least those bums aren't on Earth's beaches anymore. Maybe one day you can afford a vacation on Earth to check them out. Just kidding. You're not gonna afford that. They are attacked by a van. People inside are hurling slurs at them. Krishna flees as fast as she can. They make an escape but are trapped in alleyways. A Russian woman yells at them as they get out of the car and run through the marketplace. Tamina really goes into detail about the grime and filth of urban environments. This seems to disgust Afranche beyond belief. The sand and mud of the islands can be washed away by water, but this man-made monstrosity that is the slums really messes with Afranche's psyche. They climb up an emergency ladder to the second floor. Here they run into an old lady that offers them a smoke. Pass that shit. Upon further inspection, she is blind and only middle-aged. Her name is Miss Ento Sismisia. She says, "Sit down, I don't have bed bugs." Questionable. She asks if he knows the foes of truth. Fuzz? Afranche wonders if she is an astrologer of the sorts. She says that Afranche is without a son, a lost soul. That is when a loud noise followed by an explosion goes off. Everyone in the room goes flying. There are Minovsky crafts outside. We mentioned these a few times. These are the Minox. The Minox is a recon craft used by Maha. The circle around the airfoil is a Minovsky craft generator fin. This allows for high mobility under Earth's gravity. There is a saying from old F4 pilots, "With enough power, you can make a brick fly." This mobile armor reminds me of that quote. Afranche tells the old lady to get up. Krishna says they need to all move now. The lady doesn't want to go with them, so Afranche decides to drag her out of the chaos. As they run, another blast goes off. At that moment, Lady Ento flees on her own. He thinks that using weapons like this outside the colony can't be standard policy. Another explosion goes off. They have to keep moving. They find a shelter, which is what Krishna was looking for. 100 years ago, this would be used during unstable times for colonists to flee in emergencies. But now they seem to be forgotten. Afranche yells out for the people to hide out here, but no one listens to his calls. There are various layers to the escape tunnels depending on the state of emergency and can lead out into space if necessary. They need to find flares and normal suits. An emergency announcement is made by the Colony Public Corporation to evacuate to certain sectors. They're going to have to walk 4 kilometers. They then run into 5 men in black normal suits. One man says he will kill them. Afranche fires the flare gun off and hits one soldier. The 2 girls head into one direction while Afranche takes off on his own. One soldier tells his commander that they are fleeing. They are talking to Ol Urian. They lose sight of Afranche. Ol is coordinating ground and aerial pursuit through a surveillance network using the Minox air system. He is visibly furious that they lost him. His team is able to spot a man machine on their sensors. Afranche thinks of Ento and her words. He doesn't seem to hear the sound. He is referring to the ticking in his head. He then remembers Gabasu saying the end of things begins with one's own surrender. In a flashback, Afranche wants to stop the storms on the islands, but Gabasu reminds him that the storms are good. Not only that, unlike humans, they warn them of their presence. Gabasu said that we are too diminutive in scale to predict human-caused accidents that arise from human actions without forewarning. Miranda continues through the tunnels. She believes that all of these shelters are under surveillance, so they should head out into space. Krishna is uneasy by this. They need to get to the linear car station. Linear cars are those trams that Camille and Fa took in the first episode of Zeta. Miranda happens to have a Colony Public Corporation card that allows her to access the emergency corridors. Meanwhile, Afranche makes it onto the streets. Then, suddenly, a flash of white light. It is a police officer that demands to know who he is. Another officer grabs him from behind and punches him when he asks too many questions. The man's hairy arms chokes Afranche. Hairy arms? Tamino, you got a hairy arm thing going on? This is an assault and you're focusing on hairy arms. One punches him in the solar plexus and he passes out eventually. At that time, a Zoran soul comes in and fights against a Minox. He wakes up in a lucid state thinking of Everly. Pain brings him to reality. While coming to, there are 3 men taunting him. He tries to get answers out of them, but they try to grab his balls instead. Ooh. Afranche asks if there are cops. They laugh at him. 2 begin attacking, but Afranche dodges. He is able to bob and weave with ease. A 3rd, bigger man attacks, but Afranche gives him a nice headbutt. He never experienced conflict like this on the islands. They stop fighting and asks where he comes from, but he doesn't know. His lack of understanding is starting to become a frustration. An officer opens the cell and tells Afranche to come with him. The big man says that his name is Toto Goring. Afranche is handcuffed and escorted out. Afranche learns in real time that police in positions of power exploit said power. One officer tells another to remove the handcuffs. This is a plainclothes officer, it seems. He tells Afranche that he can leave, but there is a storm outside. Afranche wonders what is going on. He tells him that they are a part of internal affairs and he was detained unlawfully. He's free to go, but he shouldn't expect retribution for the corruption. Like the police said, there is a storm inside the colony. As he leaves, he realizes he has nowhere to go. He heads towards the metro station to get on the colony linear train. An emergency is currently happening outside of the colony and the train is closed. Afranche sees a TV discuss a hole in the colony, which is the cause of the storm inside. It should be fixed soon, according to reports. People on another channel discuss if this is Maha or the Federation's doing. Afranche realizes that even the people in the colonies get surface-level truth fed to them. He must find Krishna and Miranda. No one will help him. Ul is talking to Captain Bijan Dargol, and they seem to be tracking Afranche. He submits his report on his investigation so far. The commander mentions the Z organization making moves. While Afranche was passed out, he was given a truth serum and a tracker. After their meeting, Ul mentions he has a date, referring to meeting up with Krishna. Afranche still wonders why the officers let him go so easy. His head is pounding. He wonders if they planted a tracker on him. They did. Everything about these artificial environments are an illusion to him. He thinks of Everly. Afranche wanders onto a fire as a crowd gathers. Police are collecting dead bodies. Captain Madras of the Spacius are able to find Afranche's location. They inform Krishna, who is prepping to meet with Ul, which seems to be planned on their end as well. Just some casual espionage. Maha may be mobilizing soon, so he puts Karen Mead on standby. Her and Krishna are their aces. They have to focus on getting Afranche and retreating. They prep 31 Square. Miranda and Krishna seem to conflict on ideologies. Krishna is defiant by Miranda's ideas of breaking down the chain of command. Afranche notes while wandering around that even though most are poverty-stricken in the colonies, they aren't burdened by the struggles of survival. No hunting or growing food. Some could say the upper class of this society might even have less freedoms than those living in the streets. Modern wisdom for these people are bypassing the economic systems instead of learning of the plants that surround them. He recognizes that people need the uncertainty that nature offers. Afranche is constantly reminded that a few kilometers in either direction is the vastness of space. It really makes him paranoid. But then he reminds himself that the island life is very similar. A young man bumps into Afranche. Oh no, it's the youths. Others surround him. They look like thugs out of an 80s cartoon. The ringleader says, "Alright boys, let's get to it." They all begin to brawl. Afranche blurts out the name, Toto Goring. They all stop and wonder how he knows that name. He says they met in jail. The ringleader says, "You're alright." And they all become friends. Their leader is Messer Met. He says, "Alright boys, we got work to do. Let's go." Krishna is wearing a sari. She says that she felt compelled to wear this outfit. She meets with Ul. Krishna asks him about the air raid. She wonders if it is Maha, trying to get information out of him. Ul tries to change the subject, but then she says since he isn't a student, he must be military, right? She's pushing a little hard and starts holding back. Ul goes the self-deprecation route and says he is a slacker. A limousine pulls up for the two and they depart. About 10 meters away is where the incident with Afranche and Messer Met's gang is going down. He barely noticed Krishna as they departed. And that will do it for this episode. We are already halfway through this novel, and there's a lot of meandering happening. Moments such as Afranche's realization of the colony life is important for his character, but most of this was just a fish out of water. Now that we have been introduced to the Spacious, things should start moving. Next time, we will learn about the Spacious crew member Joe. Ul and Krishna continue their date. Krishna will be held captive. And Kieran Mead pilots Gaia Gear Alpha. But that will do it for now, new types. Remember, wandering only takes you so far without direction. Peace.